Good evening. This is September's uh, edition of the South Suburban College Computer Club of CCS. And tonight's meeting is on mostly Windows 11, but there is some Windows 10 material included. Uh, you've got 2 years to go on the life of Windows 10, and then you get no more security updates and become more and more vulnerable the longer you use it, just like old XP and Windows 7 were. Terry, mute your mic.
What?
Terry, mute your mic.
Yeah. I got 2 years. We better not
Mute,
set nothing up.
Terry, mute your mic.
Or set it down.
No, mute the mic. Thank you. Uh, anyway, all right. We're going to try and get this rolling. And okay. Now, tonight I have multiple articles on the same basic topic. I want to touch upon each one of the ones first, and then I'll bring up additional information from my point of view on some of this. As of last month, and it was in one of my meetings, I mentioned about Sanford finding this article about Bleeping Computer and that they are introducing a new backup app. Microsoft is, of course. And really, what it is a combination of tying together all the various features that are already built into Windows. Currently, the version uh, may be available for 10, but right now, as far as I know, both 10 and 11, the program is only available to insiders. They haven't made it publicly available yet, even in beta, unlike last month's report of PC Manager, they call a tune-up tool, which pulls together lots of utilities built into Windows 10 and 11. Uh, I call it a cleanup program more than a tune-up program myself. And that'll I put again in this presentation towards the end. This program here is basically to pull together a lot of stuff. The very first item of something new that is going to come before the end of the year, I think, is this Windows backup app to your device described next. And then you have some other things that they talk about that are coming. In the app, this looks an awful lot like version 1 of PC Manager. I'm on version 3, so it has a different look and feel, but it does, both of them do the same basic thing. So I'm assuming right now this is in version 1, or maybe it's gone to version 2 in this backup app, but until it becomes more available, you have to be a Microsoft insider to get this thing to work. And it what it does is And this is what threw me last month about it. It wasn't crystal clear in my head how it was going to work. The traditional legacy backup, which goes all the way back to Windows 7 in Windows, is made to make system image backups on an external drive. This app is different. It wants to create backup on your OneDrive. Now, you say, my OneDrive, a lot of people don't touch it. Okay, that's their problem, not my problem. I use it some, but this is very different. And what it does is, I on my standard accounts, I tie my uh, desktop to a Microsoft account. I do not do that on the administrator's account. That's strictly local. Now, what does this do? There are these categories, folders. You can designate folders with a simple off on slide switch. You can designate apps that you want to carry over, but they have to be in Microsoft Store. If they're not in Microsoft Store, it cannot carry them over. Okay? So they may not get backed up. Even if they get backed up, it doesn't do any good because when you do a restore, it cannot restore any program that's not in Microsoft Store. You have also quick access to apps on any Windows device possible. You have settings. Any of your programs' settings can be backed up. Also, credentials, like remembering your Wi-Fi login stuff and passwords, etc. Those would get backed up if you want them to. You select what gets backed up versus not backed up. And it all goes to your OneDrive. Now, with that, it sounds good, but you got to stop and think. The more you say back up, the more storage it takes. The average person only has 5 GB. That should be more than adequate, unless you're using a large amount of that storage already for other things, such as in 11. If you don't click on the right setting, instead of it keeping folders, content like document folder, local, it puts it up in the cloud automatically along with several other folders, uh, which bothers some people. So it's giving you some insight to this, but it didn't, as far as I was concerned, make it crystal clear. And we got another latecomer. Okay, let me wait a second. Hello, Bob Baxter. We already started, but you didn't miss that much. Uh, Here at Microsoft's backup app, from a different perspective, these are worth going through. One of the problems with this is that it's going to the cloud first. That means the very first time you use this application, all the stuff that you designate to be backed up is going to take a long time to push through your thread to the internet to the Microsoft server. So expect it to run a very long time. After that, it's only recording changes. That should go by fairly quickly. Now, uh, Restore works a little differently. You have to have the OOBE, or in other words, a PC for out of the box experience. That's what OOB stands for. Uh, don't ask me who came up with that one, but that's what it is. And basically, they're showing you the same uh, version of the application where you would designate in each category what folders, what apps, settings, uh, credentials, and this feature in the middle. It gives you a little bit more detail than the first article did. It also talks, and this is where you better start reading, limitations of Windows backup apps. They aren't a lot of options in Windows backup app. The main issues is that users cannot select which apps and settings are to be backed up. Here are some of the other limitations in the app. There are toggles next to each folder. That's the one I was mentioning first. Uh, that you can say which ones you want to back up and what folders, maybe as an example. Let's just say, for example, you don't have any music. Well, you can turn that folder slider off so it's not backing that up because it's empty. Same thing for pictures, videos. If you don't have any videos on your system, why back it up? Things like that. So there's lots of little other gotchas, and this gives you a perspective on this tool. I have some positives and possible negatives about it, and I'm going to get to that in a couple minutes. The next article, Windows 11 is getting a new backup app. Well, we didn't know about that. Okay. Uh, Backing up the computer. In the past, including the early 11, you have tools for cleanup, which another application called PC Manager I introduced last month calls a tune-up program. I call it a cleanup program because it gets rid of a lot of garbage in your system more than it does any tuning that's other than short-term tuning. So I take that one with a grain of salt. Well, this one here, backup in Windows, has always been a lot of tools scattered all over the place. You had to know where to go in your system to find each one of the little tidbit of tools and then use them on a regular basis. This now, like PC Manager, is probably 30 years overdue. This should have been out long ago to have one app. You go to it to perform your system backup, and that would have been the greatest thing going. Whether you used an external drive early on versus OneCloud, which didn't exist 30 years ago. It doesn't matter as long as the backup was easy to do. This app and PC Manager will make those two processes much easier for the average PC user. And I'm not joking when I say that. So these are another perspective to read through. But here's another one. If you don't recognize that little icon up there, you should recognize MSN, which is Microsoft News. And they're posting a make use of article for this feature. This one's important. So what I'm going to do, hang loose for 1 minute. I think you're gonna shoot me in the butt again. Yep, there it is. Okay, now what I want to do.
Tim, that's only going to be in 11, not 10, right?
No, no. That first article, if you read the title, it says Windows 10.
But now it says 11, I'm saying that's why.
It's like PC Manager. It's made for both. There is actually the only difference between 10 and 11 as far as the operating system is concerned is the looks and some updates to security that require a hardware change because old systems won't handle it. And old is qualified. As long as you got an 8th gen processor system, all the way through 13 and version 14 of Intel processors will be out within the next couple months. Uh, you're okay to run 11. If you got a 7th gen or older processor, it will not run 11, not supported. You can, if you know what you're doing, run 11 unsupported. I do that on 2 machines. At any rate, hang loose for a minute because I gotta try and send something which you can't see yet. Okay, I just sent a document in chat. Open up your chat and see if you can see it. You can download it. It's the article that I have from MSN's republishing of uh, uh, make use of article on this new backup feature, but that's a PDF and it has several areas highlighted. And so from that standpoint, I want to see if I can bring that up again. Uh, and I've got to stop share and reshare. So I'm going to shut that down and I'm going to reshare my screen. And this is the article. And basically, I'm saying here very important points here that everybody really needs to know about. And instead of uh, manually copying every file or creating a gigantic system image, you can manage backups of most of the personal data and PC within a single app is the basis. This gives you what it's really about. These are some extra points that have to be understood. You have to have a Microsoft account for that. It tells you if your standard user account, which you should be using on daily stuff, not your administrator's account. You, if you have the standard account as local, you would have to go into your accounts management, and there's uh, a quick link in there near the top that allows you to convert it from local to a Microsoft account. And this would give you access to your OneDrive that every account for Microsoft gets access to, and you get 5 GB. That is needed, as it says here, in order to be able to use this application. You have some various instructions here to follow. And then you have more information here. When you reset a PC or install Windows on a new PC, you can import this backup to in one go. The setup page will at sign in will give you the ability to do the restore process is basically it. And it goes down further. There's a caveat, of course. So I thought about this for quite a while, and I came up with a note that you can't see until I share again. So okay, now the backup app. I have 5 points. I cannot enlarge this. I bolden the type. Don't worry about it in the handout. These 5 points are in the bottom, well, after the articles. So you'll have that along with a bunch of other information. Point one, if you have corrupted files or malware infection, is it caught uh, and are you, I got a typo in there. Are you notified of the issue? Number two, much of the data files in the documents folder, pictures folder, and video folders may be very personal. Are these encrypted before copying up to who creates the encryption key? Is it you or is it Microsoft creating the key for the encryption? Number three, good backup policy says you have 3 consecutive backups minimum, like 3 backups for the past 3 months. That's assuming you're only backing up once a month. And that would be a full system image backup that I'm talking about and know how to restore it. Uh, Having a local copy for when you need it and one off-site, that's the most practical way because you have fires, floods, uh, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc. to be concerned about. And an office site is the most recent backup you made, rotated, replaced with the next backup. In other words, the backup you already have at the offsite location, you would bring that home, dropping off the brand new backup. And at home, you would have that returned backup to be recycled, and you'd have a local backup. So what I'm recommending here, you would probably do a backup just to the local drive first. When it's done and it's verified, you would then take a copy of that, put it on that other drive, take it to the offsite location, leave that there, and bring the other one back. That's requires 3 backup drives to do this technique. It's the only way to be certain that you have a good chance of restoring some functionality to a computer that's completely wiped out. Number four, I don't use MS Backup Utility, uh, but use a free backup program. Most third-party backup programs can do a verification of the backup immediately after completion of the backup if you set it up to do so. Others require after the backup is a backup to manually initiate the verification process. MS Backup never had a verification capability, and I don't follow it, so I don't know if it currently has that option. Number 5, are the files copied to OneDrive compressed? So these were questions, and the last one was done well after number 1 through 4. So I decided I'm gonna I'll say play a game as it were, and what I came up with I found quite interesting. Oops, I got the wrong thing here. Sorry about that. And what I'm going to do is stop sharing again, bring that back up, and I think this is the one I want. Yes. Okay. Now, don't need that right now. Thank you very much. So I went and I used Claude AI, and I asked it simple questions. Does a Microsoft Backup app in Windows 7, 8, 8.1, 10, and 11 provide for verifying backups? Here are a few key points about verifying backups with the Microsoft Backup tool in those versions. Windows Backup and Restore utility allows you to do both manual and automatic backup of files, folders, drives, and system images. By default, the backups are saved to a dedicated backup folder on your system drive or on an external drive you select. There are no built-in options for Windows Backup tools to directly verify the integrity of the backups uh, uh, they made. However, you can manually verify backups. For me, that's a throwback of more than 20 years. And by browsing the backup location and spot checking files, uh, the idea there is you would restore individual files, usually picking out 3 different individual files of not real big size randomly through the entire amount of files backed up. And if you can restore the 3 files, odds are your backup is okay when you need it. If you don't do this manual verification, you may find out it didn't work quite right, so you don't have use of the backup file that's out there. It won't let you use it. Uh, for system image backups, you can boot into the recovery environment and choose the system image to restore. If the restore completes successfully, it indicates the system image file backup is valid. That's what I was alluding to. You don't restore the whole thing. You find the 3 files you want and only restore those 3 files. If it works out correctly, you're probably okay. And I have to say probably because anything can happen. It was not totally verified. Third-party software often includes more robust verification options such as checksums reporting and ability to test restores. So in summary, while the native backup utilities themselves do not offer verification, you can take steps to spot check files or doing test restores to manually confirm your backup contains the expected data and are valid. That's still a bit of an assumption, but you have like an 80-90% probability that's true. Using a third-party backup software is recommended if you need more verification capabilities, which I strongly recommend. Now, one additional thing I want to mention here at this point. Uh, yes, you've checked for 3 files, but we haven't gotten to the crux yet of everything going on. So the next question I asked, will the new MS backup app prevent copying to OneDrive corrupt files or malware infected files? Unfortunately, I do not have enough information, enough context to definitively answer whether the new backup app will prevent copying corrupted and malware infected files to OneDrive. However, here are a few key points. And it says, number one, the new backup app is designed to help users easily back up important files and folders from the Windows 10 PC to OneDrive or 11 to OneDrive. It provides a simple interface for connecting, selecting files, folders to back up and managing backups. OneDrive does have some built-in protections against malware and corrupted files being synced, because that's what you're doing. You're syncing your computer to OneDrive for your Microsoft account and share. For example, it scans files for viruses before syncing, checks file extensions and types before allowing sync, and can identify and quarantine corrupted files. That last part bothers me. Why would you necessarily quarantine a corrupted file? Files can be corrupted from things other than malware. That being the case, if it's not a malware corruption that caused the corruption, you just blew away potentially a valuable file that all you have to do is probably run check disk against the file or against your whole drive in order for it to try and correct the corruption. It also can be a result of what's called bad spots if you still are using a spinning hard drive. And detection of that is part of check disk to check for bad spots and try and recover as much information as possible, but it may not be 100%. Depends on how bad the damage is. However, these protections are not foolproof. Malicious software can sometimes get through if they are cleverly disguised, and that's getting more and more true, or exploited unknown vulnerabilities. Corrupt files may also sync if the corruption isn't detected. So you could be copying up a corrupted file, which means later on, if you restore that file to a different system, such as a brand new Windows 11 compliant computer from a Windows 10 system, you may be putting on a corrupt file. The backup app itself does not provide any additional malware corruption detection beyond OneDrive. Already does. For maximum protection, users should still be cautious about what they select to back up to OneDrive. avoid backing up suspicious and unstable folders. Also, use antivirus software that verifies files are not corrupt before backup. So my suggestion there is you run check disk before you use this tool to find and correct any corruption, and add in, if you're on a spinning hard drive, bad spot detection, which uh, causes the check disk to run much longer, depending on the size of the drive and how much you have out on the drive. And I also recommend using Malwarebytes free. Uh, Additionally, OneDrive retains previous versions of files, so if a corruption or infected file does get backed up, you may be able to revert to a clean version. In other words, this whole process does versioning, it's called. That's where when you make a change to a saved document, the old version is retained, but the new version is available normally. And if there's a problem with it, you might be able to get the old version back and not lose everything that was in that document. Uh, so you have a lot of things there. I went on and I said, if corrupt files or malware infected files are found, is the user notified? Unfortunately, Microsoft Backup does not directly notify users if corrupted or malware infected files are detected during a backup to OneDrive. However, there are a couple of ways to corrupted malicious files could potentially be flagged to the user. OneDrive's built-in malware scanner may prevent this, but it's not guaranteed to catch everything. That's the gist of that. If OneDrive detects a syncing file is corrupt, it will try to quarantine and repair the file. That may happen, it may not. It depends on what caused the corruption of the file in the first place, such as a bad spot on a spinning hard drive. It may not be able to handle that. If it is unable to repair it, OneDrive may display a warning that the file couldn't be synced or was quarantined. After the backup, the user can manually scan their OneDrive files using Windows Defender or other antivirus software to double check for threats. This would reveal any infected files, maybe. The users may also notice warning signs such as crashes, damage, strange behavior if they attempt to open corrupted files that got backed up. So in summary, backup app itself does not notify you of if it backs up corrupted files or malware infected files, etc. I went on and I said, okay, do any third-party backup utilities notify users they have corrupt files or malware infections? There are some third-party backup utilities that can detect and notify users of corrupted files or malware infected infections during backup. Acronis True Image seems to cover both areas. Macro and Reflect, there are opinions you must set, options, excuse me, not opinions. There are options. You must set uh, per backup or for all backups that will do some of this same kind of checking and verification, but not for viruses, only for corruption of files, and that the backup is verified right after backup. Easiest to do backup. I get the sense it does not detect corrupt files. Um, but notifies users about any virus detections it spots and bad sectors, which most won't do the bad sector. They'll just say the file is corrupt. Uh, VM backup and replication. Uh, it can detect corrupt data blocks, reports errors and warnings, but may not detect malware infections. Storage craft shadow protection has verification feature that compares backup files against the originals and reports any data corruption or loss, but may not detect malware infections. So anything that's in parentheses, that's my comment, not Claude's comments. And the last one here is Cloudberry backup can be configured to scan files before backup and notify if viruses or bad sectors are detected, but may not report uh, corrupt files that have nothing to do with bad sectors. Now, the first three programs in this list out of six, I am somewhat familiar with, though I haven't used Acronis in God knows how long. And easiest to do, it's been quite some time since I last used it. Uh, so I these are considered many of the enterprise grade backup tools and disk imaging software. So take it with a grain of salt. I then did an addendum, and this one question: are the files and in the new backup app compressed on OneDrive? Answer: no. The Microsoft Backup app does not compress files when backing up to OneDrive. The files are copied and uploaded in their original uncompressed state. Here are some of the key points about backup app and compression. The backup app is designed to be simple and fast, so it does not apply any compression or duplication techniques during backup. OneDrive itself does use compression on files being synced to save space, but this compression happens on OneDrive servers, not locally on your device before upload. The backup app transfers files as is directly to one file in their normal format, same as if you manually copied files to the OneDrive folder yourself. If you want to compress files before backup to save for space savings, you would need to manually compress them like with a zip file before using the backup app. Alternatively, you can use third-party backup software that supports compression in the backup process before uploading to OneDrive. So these are some of the ahas that I came up with on this utility. This information from Claude is also in the handout that I will give you at the end of the meeting. But here's another take that I have. I normally back up full system backup once a month. Now, let's say on the 21st day after that backup, before the next monthly backup is being made, I lose the hard drive completely. So it's got to be replaced. Or I've decided to buy a new Windows 11 system to replace my Windows 10 system. And I want to transfer the stuff to the other program. These are two issues. So, issue number one, um, using this utility gives you what I call a differential backup. And this gives you the ability to restore your image backup that you made probably on an external drive. You restore that first, because to be able to use this utility to restore what it backed up on one drive, you have to have the operating system installed on the system, and you have to be signed in to your Microsoft account. So those are two issues. And if you restore a running backup from the last system image you did, you have that already in place. And then you would be able to take this application, follow the instructions to be able to restore everything that occurred for the first 21 days after you did that full system image backup. So it has a real value for people who make a lot of documents and or modify a lot of documents during the month. And if you're a big picture taker, or you create videos of some kind of your own, you may also benefit from that as well. Same for people who have a music library. You're adding and possibly deleting some of your existing entries for one reason or another. Well, now you can restore all those that are not in that full image backup. So it has some value if you understand it. But what's on OneDrive is not absolutely everything on your current system, number one. And number two, the it's only a single instance of backup. That is classified by computer experts as just a copy. And since these are technically full image copies of what's on your disk put up on OneDrive, you are actually doing a copy operation. Therefore, it's not a normal backup. A normal backup has multiple version copies that at your disposal. Let's say that your last full backup had an infection. Well, if you restore that image, you restore the infection on your system. That's not a good thing. Now, on the other hand, you have two more backups farther back in time that you could restore one of them. You may lose any new programs you added. Old programs you deleted will be there, and but you can still restore what's on OneDrive and probably have very little that you have to update manually after the fact. The second instance is in when you bought a new computer, even if it's a Windows 10 computer, let alone a Windows 11 computer. One of the biggest headaches people have always had is transferring what I got on the old machine to the new machine. There are a lot of programs and some hardware that have been around for decades. One of them is called PC Mover. That originally, I don't know what the price is now, cost $50. And it was, since you don't use a program like that unless you have lots of computers, it's usually a one-time use costing you $50. Okay, it depends upon you, the individual, if that's what you want to do. This backup utility to OneDrive will work very much like PC Mover does, and some of the other similar applications for moving your content from one machine to the other. The one thing that usually is not available is transferring your installed programs, except for a few cases, from the old machine to the new machine. You have to reinstall them usually. I think PC Mover had the feature to transfer the executables from one system to the other. How well it worked, I don't know because I never used it. So I'm giving you that heads up kind of situation. This has some potential no matter how you do backups. It's just making it easier to do some kind of backup because there's a lot of people using PCs that don't do any backup. So if this helps you do backups, even just the one that's a copy of important files to OneDrive, that's great. The other headache you've got, if everything that you're backing up from your system totaled, say, oh, I'm going to speculate, and mind you, this is not the operating system. This is just the various folders that you want to back up, settings, passwords, credentials, stuff like that, and Microsoft Store apps, which don't take up much space to begin with. Uh, let's say that that all took 8 gigs out of, you only have a 5 gig OneDrive. So what does that mean to you? It means if you want to take advantage of this, you either have to pare down what you are backing up to fit in that 5 gigs, and or if you are using space in that 5 gigs, you got to move that to somewhere else to free up that space it's taking so that you have more space available out of that 5 gigabyte capacity. So you have to keep that factor in mind. And that's not a joke. Part of this, and I'm being cynical, makes me think what they're trying to do is, in many instances, but not in all instances, to get people to buy more space. Now, a small incremental amount of space from Microsoft and many other similar services like Google, etc., the cost of an incremental increase in storage is usually only less than $5 a month. So, depending on how much ease of use you want, you might have to spend a little money every month back in that to have the extra storage you need to use this tool effectively. It depends again how much is out there that you need to move, and will it squeeze in to 5 gigabytes, because there is no compression as far as the amount of original raw data. They will compress it on their servers to take up less space, but they'll still report you've got 5 gigs out there now. You've got no more space. If there's anything else you wanted backed up, you're going to have to buy more storage, and then it will back up everything you want. Just a caveat. Now, another caveat associated with that, if you are a user uh, and subscriber to MS365, you get lots of extra storage. So, unless you're very prolific in the work you do in MS365, odds are you're going to have plenty of space to use this backup tool to keep all your stuff intact so that if a major disaster occurs, I can restore my last image backup. Then I can restore all the stuff I have backed up on OneDrive, and I should be almost perfect. It won't be 100%, but it'll be like 99% of everything you need that was there when disaster struck. At least that's ahead of me, because the system I lost that I talked to a few of you about earlier, I hadn't gotten to the point of making a backup yet. That was the next thing on my list. I just didn't get that done in time. So I'm going to move on from here, unless somebody's got additional question at this point on this utility. Hearing nothing but crickets, I'll move on. The next article. Microsoft announces the end game for third-party window printers drivers, which have plagued people for about 3 decades. And it goes into some of the details of what it's talking about, and I'm only going to touch upon this briefly. Uh, Starting in 2026, Microsoft says when installing a new printer, Microsoft will adjust its rankings to always prefer the native UPP class drivers over manufacturers submitted drivers on Windows Update. These are ones that they are maintaining for operability, because there are here this method of delivering native support via Windows Update works well enough that Microsoft says it will no longer service what it calls legacy version 3 and 4 printer drivers to Windows. Rather than rip the band-aid off in one fell swoop, Microsoft is implementing a gradual phase out. So with luck, Microsoft is going to take over providing the necessary drivers for your printers. If it gets down to a point where Microsoft does not have a driver that will work with your printer, it's probably so obsolete that you're going to have to replace it anyhow. Even if you have the manufacturer's drivers, which won't work because they won't let you install them, it's going to be a case where those are obsolete, and at some point they wouldn't work anyhow. And when the drivers don't work, it doesn't matter if the printer is still operable, you're just not going to be able to use it unless you've got an old computer laying around that those drivers still work on with an obsolete operating Windows operating system. Then you would have to transfer whatever you want to print to that old machine and then print that from that machine. Good luck. I don't think too many people are going to want to attempt it. Okay, a faster, more productive 11 is coming to, and Microsoft has given insider members a preview of it. I'm not going to get into this much depth because this is advanced news. This is something that probably will start occurring before the end of the year. Uh, it looks like Windows 11 could finally get a fix to improve the performance of its File Explorer app, but at the moment, this is only available to people who have Insider Update for the Windows Insider program. Now, they're talking the File Explorer app. In case you're not aware of it, your desktop that you're staring at, if you're on a Windows system versus a Mac OS or a phone, a tablet, and or Linux, a Chromebook, is using File Explorer to show you what you have. It also controls the taskbar that you can single click to launch programs put on the taskbar. And in 11, you can also have apps and folders on the taskbar to quickly open them up. So this is something that's coming down the pike. They don't seem to allude to exactly when it might come, but there's a strong possibility next month when they release 23H2 upgrade, or before the end of the year, this should end up in an update and start improving some of your system's performance. The next article. Critical bug leaves Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and loads of other apps vulnerable to attack. Update right now. That means not only the browsers, but there's lots of other programs on your system that may have updates that will protect you from this critical bug. I'll let you read more on this. It's a critical 0-day flaw that was discovered in Chrome early this week. And it turns out Google's browser isn't the only one affected by the bug. So they go into a little bit more detail, and they're also including the Microsoft Edge browser and Brave browser. That latter two means that any browser that is based on the Chromium browser, which is the foundation of Chrome, is vulnerable. Therefore, all browsers need to be checked for updates. And there may be a lot of programs and others that use pieces of your installed browsers that could also be affected by this particular vulnerability. So I say better be safe than sorry. Try and update every piece of software you can on your systems to minimize your vulnerability to this particular vulnerability that has been detected and written up there. Come on. All right. Now, next one. Now, this is an interesting one. They're going to modify the Windows 11 snipping tool. They're not saying necessarily Windows 10 tool to be able to read OCR text recognition. Now, prior to that, I have used Power Toys by Microsoft employees, which includes an OCR text recognition app. It when I used it early on and this was even before version 0.73, which is current. Uh, it didn't do a great job. What does it necessarily mean? Because of the more FYI apps that I produce, I take articles, uh, subject line and sub subject line, and I copy them and put them into uh, the more FYI. Well, occasionally I can't copy them. And there's a simple reason I cannot copy them, and that is because they put the text into an image and you're looking at an image. An image is a picture. So the only way to get the text out of that picture is either you manually type what it says or you use OCR text recognition software. Well, now the snipping tool can take a picture of that information and be able to extract with this new OCR text recognition just the text you want so that it can be put in the clipboard and then pasted where you want it. So that's something that is long overdue as far as I'm concerned. Power toys have been around for a few years, and why they're just adding OCR to the screen capturing tools now, I have no clue. Uh, so they're finally waking up at Microsoft to some of the issues that really should have been addressed a long time ago. Whoop, you son of a gun. Oh, you rat. Nah. Oh, you're gonna do that. All right. Hang loose for a minute. I got a stupid problem from Windows of what I'm trying to do. It don't want me to do. Ah, I'm gonna close that now. And there. That's all I wanted to do. Lower that a little bit. Jeez. Sue. All right. Anyway, the next article. Okay. Using the wrong USB-C charger could permanently ruin your new iPhone 15. This is not a joke. And they go on to explain what the hell they're talking about. If you get a new iPhone 15, and most Americans have moved to iPhones to begin with, and you're going to upgrade to the latest version they just recently released, three bullet points. You should be careful about how you charge your iPhone 15. Uh, if it's not already in version 16, as soon as they release version 17, it's supposed to only charge your phone up to 85% and stop charging. Of course, that has to be debugged at some point. Using low quality USB chargers could make it easier to accidentally fry your phone. This is because some USB-C connectors don't have safeguards for electrical surges. Uh, when you see your lights flicker, as the lights come back on, there is some kind of a surge. It's minor, but if you have a power outage, when they turn the power back on because of your furnace AC, your refrigerator, any electric lights, and other devices you have turned on, causes a massive surge in the electrical power. It's brief, but it can fry electronics unless you have good surge protectors you know are working, or a UPS power supply that's giving you surge protection. So I'll let you read that one further. Now, next one. This kind of surprised me a little bit. Apple unveils the biggest iCloud storage tiers. Here's what it means for you. Now, I thought uh, uh, Apple probably was just matching Microsoft at a 1 terabyte level. Well, that ain't true. Uh, for the first time, customers can now sign up for allowances larger than 2 terabytes, which was their limit, and go from 2 terabyte to either the new 6 or the new 12 terabyte plans. I don't have information on exact cost, but it talks down here further that currently you get 5 gigabytes from Apple's iCloud, just like Microsoft. You can expand it to 50, 200 gigabytes, and 2 terabytes at a cost, of course. From September 18th, the same time the iOS is set to go live, iCloud subscribers will be able to upgrade their storage to a 6 terabyte plan. It says for $30 a month. So 2 terabytes is probably a third of that price as a guess, which would be $10, which ain't bad for 2 terabytes. That's equivalent to $5 a terabyte. Uh, and the 12 terabyte plan is $60 a month. Boy, if you got that kind of needs for online storage, wow, I'd sure like to know all of what the heck you're doing. You're busy beaver, hopefully in a business of some kind, presumably a small size business, maybe that's does a lot of photos, like a photo photographer, and or you're making your own videos and storing copies on your system before you upload them to like YouTube or TikTok, Instagram, etc. So you can read through that one if you're into Apple's cloud storage. Now, here's one that'll terrorize you. A long list of tech companies are rushing to give themselves the right to use people's data to train AI. There is so much AI right this very minute in browsers and applications, it's staggering. Anytime you do a search right now, you're given information to an AI with that company, and they use it for training for the AI chats in order to be able to respond to you better and without hallucination, which means they haven't got a clue what they're talking about because they don't have enough information. So they're guessing. Uh, this one I think you ought to read because, if nothing else, more companies are quietly updating privacy policies to use collected user data to train AI models. Transcription tool Rev is one of the latest companies to change its terms of use for use in AI. Others to do so include the most notable tech companies as they rush to take part in the AI craze. And of course, our government is starting to talk about AI investigations for possible regulations. And as usual, our lawmakers are way behind the present. And it takes a long time for them to start getting the regulations. And trust me, like the new Medicare negotiation for high priced drugs people need the most, that might start in 2026. Of the first 10 items, I have one of those drugs and I cannot afford it anymore for the copay. And the insurance company raised the copay because they don't want to provide it anymore. That's how much it costs. But in this case here, these companies are going to fight any regulations in courts, tying them up for a long time. So by the time they take effect, it's like, who cares? They're going to have so much of our information training the AIs. Who is going to care at that point that now they can't do it anymore? Because it's going to take lots of years to get both the legislation first and then through court challenges. And let's assume all the court challenges to strike down the regulation or law fail, in which case it's still going to take probably 5 to 10 years to get through all court challenges before they might be able to make the law or regulation effective. So you might want to take a look at that. Here's another one. This one surprised me also. Microsoft kills off Windows 11 troubleshooters. So where can you turn to get help? I use them periodically and with good reason. But I also knew they're not the cat's meow. Now, uh, let's see here. I'm trying to. Okay. In a recent support document, Microsoft outlines its plans to retire various troubleshooters, starting with Microsoft Support Diagnostic Tool MSDT, which will be pulled as part of the next Windows 11 update, which I assume they're talking 23H2. The exact date of when this happens hasn't been announced yet. Microsoft also lays out depreciation timeline that looks to put in place over the next 3 years. In 2023, begin redirecting some of the troubleshooters to, if you got an up-to-date Windows 11 system, you go to list all apps, go down to G, and you will see a new listing in there called Get Help. And it's to replace the troubleshooters. It's an AI chat tool. You describe what your problem is, and it tries to give you the necessary information to try and correct the problem. In 2024, a complete the troubleshooter redirection and remove the rest of the troubleshooters. 2025, totally remove the MSDT platform. Microsoft goes on to explain this will mean significant departure from the MSDT platform for Windows users, as many of the troubleshooters we're familiar with are based on it. A number of these will be rerouted to another newer user help platform, GitHelp. Any troubleshooters that don't fall into this category will be axed. But until then it seems they will continue to work for the near term. Now, one of the other things that I remember about this story is that these troubleshooters that have been built into Windows for at least going back to Windows 7 are for the most common problems. If you've got a common problem, these troubleshooters will be able to resolve it. But there's a ton of problems that arise with users all the time that are not the common problem, and these troubleshooters cannot address. Maybe Get Help will remedy some of that by giving you additional information if the common ones that it suggests don't work out. And it may be able to give you, because it's AI based, uh, the ability to find other solutions to try out to solve your particular problem. And that could be a very big positive. So, really getting rid of the old troubleshooters that only address common problems, and a lot of problems I've come up with, I have to go out to the internet to try and find solutions to because the troubleshooters cannot deal with them. So, this could be a big plus. It's a shock that they're actually going to do it. But I also read that part of this is that the MSDT and maybe some of the troubleshooters that evolve from it have vulnerabilities that cyber criminals are taking advantage of, and they're trying to close the vulnerabilities to being hacked and or to have malware make your day. So this has some real potential. When all this will get done, like you said, up here, basically, it could be as far as the end of 2024 before most of the existing troubleshooters are replaced with Get Help, and or if they no longer seem to apply, they just get axed, they just disappear. So this is something I think we need to look forward to as it evolves. But if you're on 11, check out your apps for the Get Help and start looking into it. It might start giving you some information. I don't know if it's active yet. I haven't tried it out. I didn't have the time. But it's worth periodically trying if it's not working right away and seeing what kind of help it can give you when you normally would use the built-in troubleshooters. All right, next, Windows 11. Its latest major error has been fixed. And some of us don't know it exists because we don't have the right computer. Uh, Trust me, this problem has been periodically around for decades. This one here happens to be if you've got a custom built or home built desktop computer using an MSI motherboard, you might have been getting blue screens of death and pops up with this Intel 700 and 600 series motherboards. Uh, Most of these motherboards don't give you that level of detail, but if you can rationalize that you have one of these series boards by MSI, your problem may now have been solved. Uh, like I say, I have seen other issues like this with other manufacturers from time to time. It's just something you gotta expect and live with all the changes that go on by the manufacturers and Microsoft's changes. There's got to be problems that are going to crop up from time to time. So you might want to look through it. There's the blame game going on as to who caused the problem. I'll let you read that. Next one. Now, this one, I don't know how many of you have Chromebooks. Chromebooks are good, especially for senior citizens. And that's not a joke because they're much, much simpler. Well, that's going through a change right now. And some people can have access to this lacrosse, they call it. And it's not spelled the same way as the game of uh, lacrosse. What it is they are divorcing Chrome browser out of Chrome OS. So the LA is for Linux, and the CR is for the Chrome OS. And basically speaking, it will happen on any Chromebook in the future here. We don't know when, but many current users, I think it's a version 109, I think somebody said. And what you have to do is you have to know how to go into Chrome flags, look for the lacrosse, and only activate or enable the last two in the listing of about 8 to 10 items. And it automatically gives it to you. Why are they doing it? One of the biggest problems with Chrome OS, since its inception in either 2011 or 2012, is that the Chrome browser in Chrome OS looks very different from the Chrome OS on Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. And what they're trying to do by divorcing Chrome out of the OS makes it a separate app. And right now, there are frequently, as much as once every week, new updates of the Chrome browser coming out because they're fixing vulnerabilities that the cyber criminals are trying to attack. And at the same time, you should be something like 98, 99% the same look and feel between a Windows system, Mac OS, and Linux version of Chrome versus what you will see in the new version of Chrome OS when it rolls out as a normal feature. But if you want to get a heads up, you got to get into the Chrome flags and change just two of them. And this was featured in Monday's version, not this Monday. Uh, yes, it was. This past Monday version of Tech for Senior. And that video should be up there. If you want, you can look at the video, find about this new feature, and Ron Brown will tell you all about it and the flags that you have to change and how to get to the flags. The next one is also about this feature, but it goes into additional information about this split of the browser from the OS to get more Linuxy like. Chrome OS is made from a Linux OS, believe it or not. And I've known about that for a long time. they used what's called Gentoo Linux, and now it will feel a little bit more like Linux. Surprise, Windows PC has been both in 10 and 11 looking more and more like Linux also, because Microsoft is part of the uh, Linux Developmentors Council. So they are borrowing left and right all kinds of Linux features into the current Windows and have been for quite a while. Uh, Now, this is a bit of a repeat, and this is from last month. I talked about, they call it Microsoft's release of its own tune-up app. I call it a cleanup app because that's most of what it's doing. It's cleaning out dead wood, which can improve the performance of any computer. This look here has changed. This is version 1, and I'm on version 3. And version 3, I think you have to go to GitHub in order to get that version. But the functionality is almost identical. You have the health check, you have storage management, you have process management, and startup apps that you can control. The only difference in 3, I have also available, and I can't show you it because I'm in Zoom. It's covered up. A floating little taskbar for this program that can be put at the top, the right, or left side, not at the bottom because that's where the taskbar normally is, unless you've moved your taskbar to one of those other 3 sides, in which case you cannot put this little floating taskbar on that side, but only the other 3 sides. This next article is how you can download the it was version 1. I haven't downloaded from this site since I loaded version 1. I don't know if they currently have version 3 from it, but I will attempt to show you what the little sucker looks like. If I can, I gotta stop the share, and I'm gonna bring it up the tool, and then I'm gonna start share again. Uh, this is version 3 of the same tool. You get a left column for the various categories and a new one called Toolbox. And you have settings down here and feedback. Everything requires feedback. When you run into a problem, and as an example, I came up with a problem lately. So I went into 11's OS. I went to give feedback, and I put in my problem. I put in a complete description and submitted it. And this may help them find what caused the problem and get it corrected so that other people in the future will not have the headache I went through. And that feedback app in the all apps of 10 and 11 is there for that purpose, to give feedback to the developers. When you think there's a problem, you describe the problem in enough detail so that they can try and duplicate the problem on their end and then fix it. Otherwise, God knows if and when these problems would ever get fixed. The more detail they've got and the more complaints they got, the higher priority the problem gets, and eventually the squeaky wheel gets greased. Now, in this thing here, you have what's called PC Boost. This was added after version 1, and it says right now I'm using 72% of my memory, but at 707 kilobytes, a whopping amount, I can get rid of. So if I click on Boost, it goes down to 0 temporary files. And look at the percentage of memory dropping from 72% down to 58%. And now it's starting to climb again. PC Health Check gives you the ability to check how your system is doing. And it gives the startup apps and gives you the ability to put a check mark in any of these that you want to disable. All of these, except for this one here, it's new, I want to run at startup. This one here, I do not. So I put a check mark in, I hit the proceed button, and that one is now disabled. And when I reboot the computer or shut down and start it back up again, that program will not interfere with the boot up process time. Processes I haven't looked into much yet. It's kind of like task manager uh, processes, and there's supposed to be a change coming in task manager. I didn't find the article, uh, but I've read it before. That's one of those that I lost in my fiasco. Uh, they're given in task manager the ability to stop the jumping around of the processes that are active at a given point in time. So, in a sense, you freeze the look so you can find what you're looking for and see how active it is or how inactive it is. Uh, Deep cleaning. This is where it cleans out a lot of possible trash. And it has some blanks here. This is DirectX. I usually do that. This is the recycle bin. Right now, there's nothing there. If it did, it might already have the check mark in it. And down at the bottom edge, temporary file details has nothing. I can check that when it has something there. And I just hit proceed. It cleans them out. Click done. And then you have direct access to the startups. So you can see what you have running at startup and what's been turned off. So you can change your mind and turn something that is now off back on, or vice versa. Now, in addition, you have the toolbox. The toolbox has widgets. I'm having a problem in that, and I've got to send feedback, but I didn't get around to it when I discovered the problem. Uh, in the little toolbar that it creates, I'm going to turn this off and turn it back on. There's the, I don't know if you can see it. No, not without me. I got to stop share and I'll start the share again. What a pain. Let's go there. See what it does. Okay, that's the little toolbar. And I'm just showing you this for the moment. There's one icon I have on at least one PC when it was working that has one extra icon there than what you see right now on this machine. That was the first one that had the problem I got to send feedback on. So I'm going to stop sharing on that, and I'm going to start up share again, back to here, and back in here. The first icon is Turbo Boost. So you don't have to open up this application. You just uh, uh, go to the this little floating taskbar, or if you got it on one of the sides that it will attach to, you drop it down. You click on the first icon. It does Turbo Boost to clear up some of the memory and reduce your overall memory usage. The second icon that was on what I just showed you is a screenshot. I can click that, drop that from that toolbar and click on it to bring up the snapshot program snipping tool. I could also, if I wanted to, have the screenshot folder there, voice recorder, captioning. I can turn it on and off. Notepad, which is up there as the third icon. The missing icon is the calculator. Occasionally I need to use the calculator, and it was convenient, but for some reason, if I click on this calculator, it actually opens up the calendar application and never puts the icon up in the floating toolbar. Now, the fourth one that showed on that screen is Edge Quick Links. I've never explored that yet. I haven't had time. So there's a way of accessing these quick links to be able to do Edge features of some kind. You also can put up there the Bing translator if you need it, and currency converter. You also have custom links that and additional ones you can create to Bing, MSN, and others that could be put on this toolbar. The last icon that I showed you in that image looks like the little gear. If you click on that, you get this screen, you get a menu. And the first item on that little menu is to bring up this particular full application screen. And the other two are for these custom links. So this gives you some idea of the capabilities of version 3 and going forward. I just have to submit a feedback on the one issue I've got with calculator. I haven't tried some of the other ones to see if they work or not. I'm not interested in them. That's why I haven't tried them. Now, the other program that I want to bring up at the moment, I've mentioned it before. I think I've showed it, is Patch My PC. A lot of people have on their system. Ooh, why isn't that coming up? See, yeah, well, you can't see it. Never mind. There we go. All right. Don't know why that didn't automatically come up by itself. But anyway, simplify third-party patching for the home PC. You can download the app here.
Yeah, we're still on your demo.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. I gotta stop and share again. Come on. All right. Patch My PC. And down here is the download and current version number. Uh, now, what I will do here is I want to stop sharing for a moment again and see if I can launch the actual program. hang loose. Hang on. Okay, now we got that. Now I gotta get back in and share this thing. And that one there. This is basically what it looks like. You have over here main software that these are all free applications. And you just, any one you want, you put a check mark in. If you've already got it installed on your system, it will know whether it's up to date, which is in green, or up at the top of this right side, it will list in red. Those are the default colors for up to date and for outdated software. Anything that's in red, most of them will show up down here as to how many need updating. And sometimes the number shown in red and the number down here don't always match. They know that some pieces of software are being changed. They don't yet have the copy. So they can't download anything to update it. As you go through all these, at any time you can add ones. You can use Revo to uninstall any of these. And when you come down all the way towards the bottom, there is portable software. You expand it with the little caret like that. So right now it's showing the main expanded. And when you come down all the way to the bottom, I'll be darned. You want, oh, there it is. Oh, it didn't. Anyway, bottom line is you would have to click on this character that's over here to expand portable software. Some of these are the same programs that are in the section above, but these are portable versions you can put on a flash drive and use the flash drive and those tools on any computer you have that's Windows based. And some of these are unique. The only one that, well, let me back up for a second here. Geek Uninstaller works very much like Revo Uninstaller, but this one's portable only. You cannot install it. One that I use is Rufus. I just download it. It goes into its own separate folder, and then I create a shortcut on the desktop, and the folder is portable apps. That's what it's called. It creates it automatically. So anything from portable apps listed here that you download to your system will end up in that folder. You can then create your own desktop shortcuts so you don't have to open up the folder every time you want one of these portable apps to run on the current system. And you can copy any or all of those portable apps to a flash drive to be able to use on any other computer that's running Windows, at least Windows 10 and 11, since any older versions of Windows are all decommissioned. So these are some of the tools I have that I'm making available to you guys. Uh, Now I'm gonna close that part. Then I'm gonna shoot myself in the head, I think. We'll find out in a minute. Um, I'm going to chat and I'm gonna see if I can post you my file. And it looks like it's gonna go. Okay, if you go to chat now, you should see a new file, number 3, out there. Bob Premick posted something there in a comment. You can download that file there. That gives you all the articles and the URLs. It gives you all the questions I thought of. It gives you Claude's answers to those questions, and it gives some additional information in that file. So try and download those now. Also, while you're there, go down to the very bottom edge of chat and you will see three dots. And when you hover your mouse pointer over it, it says more. Click that and click save chat. You can't, from that saved chat, download the two articles I have provided to you, but you will see any notes that have been put in by anybody. And you can, when you save chat, when the meeting ends, it will automatically create in documents folder, subfolder Zoom, a file, a folder with today's meeting date, and in there is a text file that when you double click the text file, it will show you in probably Notepad all the text chats that were put into the chat system. So I'll give you a little bit of time. While I'm giving you a little time, does anybody have any questions? I do have one other issue to bring up. Boy, you guys are just so attentive. All right. Anyway, I've got a question for you. Uh, Especially since I'm getting heavier into Windows 11. Uh, the system that I have been using to do this presentation is Windows 11 supported. The system that I originally came up with that I'm looking at right now is Windows 11 unsupported on a very old hardware. But I've noticed, especially in 22H2, a whole bunch of new settings that I'm just starting to realize. Along with Edge, I have found some additional settings that disturb me. So my question is, down the road here, without totally inundating anybody, does anybody think we should try and go through both the operating system settings and that I think are of note, and you decide what you want to turn on or off, and also in Edge browser, because there are some significant ones in each of those areas that I think are very intrusive on your privacy. So I
Sounds
leave
like
it
a
up
good
to,
idea, Tim. Sounds like a good
well,
idea, Tim.
is anybody else got an opinion? You can unmute yourself. Nobody else has got an opinion on going over some of that material. And everybody knows about all these settings, and I am a latecomer to some of these settings. Or you don't have Windows 11 yet, but you don't care until you're forced to move to 11 2 years from now, and then you got to figure out how 11 even works because you're waiting until the last minute. And I'm trying to get you to understand you better get whatever you're going to get that runs 11, whether it's used equipment. I use used business equipment. Business equipment has a higher hardware standard than the normal consumer computers that are cheaper. When you're talking business class machines that run Windows software, You are talking about machines that are like in price to Apple's Mac computers. And I'm not joking when I say that. You're talking probably $700-800 as the bottom end, unless it's a return open box computer and or somebody who wants to get rid of the computer uh, slightly used. But it varies. If you're got deep pockets, you can get a 12th gen Intel processor system, but it could cost you as high as almost $3,000. I say almost. If you ever look at eBay, trust me, prices are all over the place. But still, you will be talking probably $1,200 to $1,500 for the same machine. On the other side of the coin, as you go backwards to version 11, the price drops a bit. 10 is even less. Version 9, you can probably get that for under $300. And version 8's about $150 to $200. And I'm using 8 and 9. So I have Windows 11 systems I've recently gotten for running 11 that are version 8. And I've got the one that I did the presentation on that is version 9 of the processor. One of the key differences, version 8 processors have hyper-threading if you have an i7, not i5 or 3. If you have version 9, i7 does not have hyper-threading, nor does the i5 or 3. You have to have in the 9th gen a i9 processor, which will not work in anything other than a desktop unit because of the heat and cooling that's needed. An SFF and the tiny computers just cannot handle that kind of power. And I don't know how many of you people were around last month. Most of you were, but not all of you. This is sometimes called a tiny computer, a mini computer, a microcomputer, an MFF, or a USFF computer. It's about 7 inches square and just slightly over an inch and a half thick. A lot of the processors that come with them are low-end processors that the last character of the CPU number ends with a letter T as in Tom, and that means low power. They have pretty good horsepower, but they are low power processors that are 35 watts. Most of these small machines can only handle up to a 65 watt processor. It cannot handle usually 90 watts or higher processor. So you have to look up what the wattages for individual processors are. So if you're not careful, you can get the wrong processor that is an overload. And I'm not joking when I say that. There's also some of these units that handle AMD processors, and many of them handle Ryzen processors. They're quite good, but if you see 2400G or 2400GE Ryzen 5 processor in the unit, they will not support 11. You would need to change the processor to either a Ryzen 5 2600 or a Ryzen 7 2700 that should work. If you see a 3400G processor, that will handle Windows 11, but you still might want to change the processor to get the G stands for gaming. And whether you're gaming or not, it has less processors. Uh, so there are higher models that have more processors, but you're probably not going to go over 8 processors because the power requirement is way too high. You put one of those things in, you'll probably fry the entire computer. That's not a joke. So these are made for low power, but they have good horsepower. The machine I've got right now only has 8 gigs in it with the i9, the i7, i5 9th gen processor in it. I will be upgrading it in the future to 16 gigs, which is what I need. But I got through all of this that we did tonight with 8 gigs. So I consider 8 gigs the minimum for anybody to have in a Windows 11 computer, even though you can go as low as 4 gigs. But with 4 gigs, you're going to be swapping out to your swap file like crazy, and it's going to degrade the performance of your whole computer. Having 8 gigs will still do some swapping, but not as much. And having 12 gig if your system can handle it, or 16 gigs is better. People that need more than 16 gigs are doing things I'm not doing, like high-end photo editing, and or things like video editing, and they are looking for high performance to get the job done as quick and easy as possible. Then you might have to go to 32 gigs. But some of those tiny machines can only go as high as 32 gigs. Other ones, for 35 watt, 32 gigs is the maximum memory. For 65 watt, you can go to 64 gigs of memory. So that's some additional information. I'll think about trying to get into settings. I'll see if I can start working that in future meetings. We'll take it a little step at a time because it would take more than 2 hours to go through all the settings. So it'll take at least an absolute minimum, I would say right now, 2.5 meetings if I do nothing else. But if I do some of the stuff I have been doing the last several months and try and address the settings, it'll take longer to get the whole job done. And I'll have to plan it out. So
I would suggest it should probably be spread out.
I would suggest it
so
should
that you aren't
probably be
overwhelming
spread
us
out
with
so that
everything
you
all
aren't
at once.
overwhelming us with
well,
everything all
that's
at once.
what I am thinking anyhow, but I got to plan that out. I got to be able to keep track of what I have done versus what I have yet to do. So I got to set something up where I can cover a certain amount, say in 30 minutes at most. Anybody got any other comments or questions? Boy, everybody must have fallen asleep like Terry Moore, who finally turned off his computer. Oh well, whatever. Because I saw him sleeping through the friggin' meeting. At any rate, I'm gonna end the meeting then at this point and
Thank you, Tim.
say good night.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks for the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks for